The following program is sponsored by the Today's Home Remodeler television network.
Welcome to Today's Home Remodeler. I'm Stuart Keith, and on today's show, well, we're solving a home's basement water problem by installing a drain tile system. We'll begin with Mike Hoganson from Standard Water Control Systems, who introduces our project. Next, we'll see what caused the existing drain tile to fail and learn how a professionally installed system will provide a worry-free solution. And we'll finish up learning about the various components and discharge options that provide the ultimate peace of mind. So we have a lot to cover today, and we'll get started right after this message.
You get the towels and the squeegee. I'll get the shop vac.
Go back to sleep. I'll explain tomorrow.
By tomorrow, we're going to have an inch of water in the basement.
Nope. I had Standard Water Control fix it for good.
Standard water control. When?
When you were on your golf trip, turn off the light, will you?
I can go to sleep?
Please.
For real peace of mind, call or visit standardwater.com today.
One of the biggest fears homeowners share is water in their basement. So imagine the frustration when an existing drain tile system fails. Today we'll visit one such home and show a solution to this all too common problem. As we get started with Mike Hoganson from Standard Water Control Systems. Mike, I can see the guys are busy prepping this basement. What's going on? Are the homeowners doing a little remodeling?
Yeah, they want to add some more living space in the home, try to increase the value of the property. And one of the best ways to do that is to remodel the basement, maybe add a bedroom or a family room down in the basement. Now, this particular homeowner, as part of that, wanted to replace his drain tile system because his drain tile system that is existing isn't working right. He's still getting water in the basement, and he wants to protect his investment. And that actually happens quite often.
Oh, how frustrating would that be to be a homeowner? You have an existing system and it's not working, and they actually had that much water that all this sheetrock down here was absorbing that moisture and mold was starting to form. That's horrible.
Yeah, exactly. This homeowner gets water year-round. You can see over here there's water on the floor, and you can see the mold that's still on the wall.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the homeowners obviously had a problem down here. They want to increase the value of their home by adding usable living space in the basement. That makes total sense to me. How is your company going to assist them with that?
Well, the drain tile system we put in is going to be a deeper drain tile system. We're going to drain all the water from the blocks. We're going to put in a system that comes with a lifetime warranty transferable to owners. That's a big selling point because the next homeowner coming in has that assurance that they don't have to worry about that. That's one less thing that they have to worry about.
I mean, as a homeowner, we all know the biggest fear, or at least one of the biggest fears, is water in the basement. And if you go to the expense of a drain tile system, you want to make sure it's going to work. So it makes total sense. They obviously did their homework and selected a company that can stand behind the product. So you're going to add a new system? Are you going to leave it set up down here if this is going to be the living room?
No, we're going to move the pump into a more convenient area over in where the mechanical room might be.
Let's go over there and take a look where you're going to be putting it.
Before we get there, I wanted to show you what's going on. You can see right where the floor and the wall meet, at one point somebody had tried putting some caulking in.
Oh my gosh, look at all the water staining here. So it hasn't been a one-time event. They've had a lot of water down here for a long time.
Yeah, you can see that their personal belongings are starting to get mold growing on them.
And I can even see moisture on the wall right now.
I know. And let me show you something. Right here is where you would put a bathtub.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
And it is just full of water.
That water is underneath this entire slab then?
That's correct. This shows you that the drain tile isn't deep enough. Okay, you saw inside the sump pit, the drain tile was coming in probably 1.5 inches from the top of the floor. so it's not draining all the water in. When we put our drain tile in, it's going to be about 8 inches deep, so we're going to drain all this water away.
That explains it to me. I mean, when we came down here, it was dank, damp, it was very humid down here. That's the reason why, isn't it?
Well, exactly. All that moisture is coming up through this concrete slab. You can see the moisture just working its way up. As part of our system, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a sub-slab ventilation system. And what that does is it connects to the drain tile. It's got a fan in it, so it sucks the air out from underneath the slab. And it also circulates the air through the hollow cavities of the blocks to help dry the blocks out and take that humidity out from underneath the slab before it gets up into the home. Wow. And it'll discharge it out above the roof line. Now, those also take care of any VOCs or organic soil gases that are down there, including radon.
Okay, good. So with your system, it's going to dry out the basement, it's going to solve their basement water problem, and they're going to have usable space down here that's very comfortable.
Exactly, Stu. They probably never need to run a dehumidifier again.
Yeah, that just blows my mind. I mean, that's 6 inches deep right there, and it speaks volumes to how ineffective the existing drain tile system is. Now, look at this. This is all water that's standing on the floor?
Yeah, this water here built up inside the block in the hollow cavities, and once it reaches the same level as the floor, it starts coming out where the floor and the wall meet. Now, you can see approximately 4 inches of the block here, and you got an 8-inch block. Well, that means that about 4 inches of block is down beneath the floor.
Sure.
Before any water can get on top of the floor, that water's got to be about 4 inches deep inside the block.
Well, back there, you can see that there's definitely water underneath this whole thing. It's like a lake underneath a home. Yeah. Now, where are you going to be putting the new sump crop?
When we come out for the original estimate, we talk to the homeowner. They tell us what they've experienced over the years. It's very important to get that information from them.
Sure, they know their house better than anybody, so
right.
It's important to be there when your estimator comes out.
Exactly. We're there for maybe a half hour. They've been there for 15 years.
Sure.
So what we do is we talk to them and say, what's your future plans? Well, here they want to put a bedroom. They want to put the bathroom in. And over there where the sump pit is, they want to make that into a family room.
Sure.
So they do not want the pump in the family room. We discussed it with them, and we feel this is the best spot because we've already got electrical here.
Okay. And
we can discharge the water out this side of the house, and if you look outside, there's a nice hill going away from the house, so the water won't pool out here, and it'll drain right down to the street.
Okay, so in addition to being here and talking to your estimator, is there anything else a homeowner needs to be aware of before they venture into a process like this?
Well, you want to make sure your contractor pulls all the proper permits. A red flag would be if he asks you to pull a permit. You should never do that. Okay. That would mean then that you're the contractor, you're the responsible person. Okay. Also, if you're in the older homes, and here we don't have it, but many homes has the tile on the floor.
Oh, sure.
And that tile, many times, is asbestos. So you want to make sure that that is taken up before any contractor gets into the home, and you want to get it done by a professional asbestos remover for the health of the employees, but more so for the health of the occupants.
Sure.
And then basically you want to make sure everything is moved to the center so we can come in and cover it with plastic to keep the dust off it.
Sure, it looks like these homeowners did a great job of prepping it. They removed the drywall over there. They took all their different belongings, moved them away from the wall. So it gives your workers ample room to install the new system.
That is correct.
I'm anxious to see the process for installing the new system. Why don't we get out of their way, let them have at it. We'll pick it up a little further along.
Sounds good, Stu. It'll be interesting to see what's wrong with this drain tile system once we get it exposed.
It certainly will.
You get the towels. I'll get the mop and bucket.
Mom, Dad, you guys eat.
What are you doing?
It's pouring. The basement's gonna flood. We told you what Standard Water did for us.
They were great, and our basement's been dry ever since.
And you get a lifetime warranty. So I get to sleep.
It was the best money we ever spent. Why haven't you called them?
Well, dear, why haven't we called them?
Tomorrow. I'll call them tomorrow.
Visit standardwater.com today.
Now let's continue with Mike Hoganson from Standard Water Control Systems.
Okay, Stu, before they get too far along, I wanted to show you some things they uncovered. As I suspected, there was something wrong with the original drain tile that's here. The first thing you can see is it's too high. The top of the drain tile is higher than the top of the footing.
Oh, look at that. Here's the existing footing, and look at that. It is. It's about an inch higher.
Right. Now, there's not a whole lot of gravel around it. When you talk about drain tile being plugged, a lot of people think the inside of the drain tile is plugged.
Sure.
Well, that's not really the case. What happens is the fines get into the little cracks where the water gets into the drain tile. And with that fines in there, the water can't get into it.
Because after all, this drain tile here is what's called perforated, right? So there's little slots in there, and that's what plugs up. So a plugged up drain tile is what you're saying is the outside of the tube.
That's exactly correct. A lot of people think it's the inside, and it's not. The other thing you'll see here, this was the 4-inch area I talked about earlier.
Okay, sure. That was buried below the slab.
Right. Before any water could get on top of the floor, this had to fill up with water. Also, they put these real small tubes in that are prone to blockage.
Not much volume in this tube, that's for sure.
No, and they only put like one per block.
Okay.
So the other issue they have, you can see this one is actually buried in the concrete. So even if the water wanted to drain out, it couldn't because it was blocked by concrete.
Oh my gosh. And this house was built in like 1985. Do you think this was installed at that era?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Contractor that built the house installed this drain tile system. So it was prone to failure from day one.
And unfortunately for these homeowners, they're suffering the consequences. But fortunately for these homeowners, your new system is going to alleviate this, and they're not going to have to worry about this type of failure happening again.
Not at all. You'll see later on what we do to combat these problems.
Well, Mike, we're a few hours into the project, and boy, have they made some great progress here. They've even made great progress on the egress window, and this is going to be awesome living space down here.
Yes, it is, Stu. These guys are really experienced. They've been doing this for many, many years, and they've seen a lot of basements.
I mean, you look at these guys in action, and it really is choreographed. They're in tight quarters, but they're not in each other's way, and that to me speaks volumes to their experience and their professionalism. Now, what I'd like to touch on is what got us to this point so far.
A lot of hard work, Stu. What we started out doing here is using jackhammers to jackhammer through the floor. That way we've got a nice rough edge for the new concrete to adhere to.
Okay, so instead of making a saw cut there, you use the jackhammer. It's a little more jagged, and that's going to help when you finish it off. It's going to help bond the new concrete with the old?
It ties it together.
Okay, makes sense to me.
And then what we did is we took the concrete off the top of the footing and exposed that 4-inch area that I was referring to earlier. Mm-hmm. We took the small tubes that were in the block out. The previous contractor that put the drain tile in didn't drill enough holes in the block.
Sure, and that was evident when they started drilling the new holes around here.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how much water was still in there pouring out of the blocks.
Right. So we re-drilled all the holes in the block. We even drilled where the two blocks meet. There's another cavity there. Sure. So we made sure we had all the cavities drilled, and then we dig this trench downhill to the new sump basin. Another problem we had with this system, as you saw, well, there was many things, but one was the drain tile was too high. Some cases encased in concrete. The tubes were encased in concrete. Over here was the old sump pit, and the drain tile came in just about underneath the floor. It was right here.
Sure. And so that's why there's so much water underneath here. I mean, the amazing thing to me is they've been shoveling all this out. There was twice as much water in there. They had to use portable sump pumps to evacuate all the water so that they could continue digging out these trenches.
That's correct. Over here was a major problem. When they constructed the home, they put a footing in here for no apparent reason whatsoever. So what happened is the drain tile came up to it on both sides, but it didn't go through, so the water couldn't make it to the sump pit.
Well, again, if I were these homeowners or any homeowner watching this TV show, I would be thinking about the drain tile system in my house and going, boy, I hope it's operating properly, because I know when we arrived on site, the pump was working, but it was only after the water got so high that it really wasn't doing much good at all. I mean, this is just terrible in my opinion. It's very misleading to the homeowner.
I know. You think you're protected, and then you find out after investing all this money that you've got to tear it all out.
Okay, so you said that you're going to be able to move this existing sump crock, get rid of that altogether, and then as I recall, kitty corner from here is where the new sump crock is going. So you said it needs to be sloped, so would this be the high point and then it's going to slope away?
That's correct, Stu. We're going to take this pump out of here because this is going to be the family room. Now, a lot of people think that a drain tile system or a sump pump actually sucks water out from underneath your home, and it doesn't. The way a drain tile system works is it is on gravity feed. The water goes downhill, it seeks its own level, and then goes to the pump, and the pump evacuates it out.
Sure, well, I'm anxious to learn more about the installation process, but before we get into that, I got to compliment you. I mean, we've done several shows in the past, but it's always been extremely dusty in the air because, let's face it, it's back-breaking, dusty, dirty work. But on this job, there wasn't much dust at all. What's going on?
Well, I'm really excited about that. With that new equipment we have, it's pretty much dust-free. We have HEPA vacuums hooked up to all the jackhammers, HEPA vacuums hooked up to the drills, and it's better for the homeowner. There's less cleanup for the homeowner. It's better for the employees and everybody involved.
Yep, well, I know if I'm a homeowner out there in need of drain tile, that's some of the questions I'm going to be asking different contractors I'm talking to. Do you have dustless equipment so that I don't have to be breathing in any of that concrete dust that inevitably is going to occur in a project like this?
That's correct.
Stick around. We'll see the components that make up the new drain tile system when we continue with today's Home Remodeler.
You get the towels and the squeegee. I'll get the shop vac.
Go back to sleep. I'll explain tomorrow.
By tomorrow, we're gonna have an inch of water in the basement.
No, I had standard water control. Fix it for good.
Standard water control. When?
When you were on your golf trip, turn off the light, will you?
I can go to sleep?
Please.
For real peace of mind, call or visit standardwater.com today.
Now let's learn more about drain tile components as we continue with Mike Hoganson from Standard Water Control Systems.
Here's some of the components that were installed today. What we did is we dug the trench. You remember it all went downhill to the sump basket. What we do is we put a couple inches of gravel in the trench, then we install our drain tile. We use the rigid PVC drain tile with the holes facing down.
Okay, so you install it like this. Why do you put the holes down?
Well, so as the water fills up in the trench, it gets up into the holes, and then it gets carried away through this area here. Basically, the drain tile is an airspace to allow the water to move fast. A lot of the water will just flow through the gravel itself.
Okay, gotcha. I could see why some people might think that you'd want to put it with them up, but you're saying you put it with the holes down in there so that the water doesn't have to come up as high to enter the pipe?
That's correct. You want to drain the water as soon as possible. Having it here, the water would have to fill up to these holes, and then the pipe would try to float.
Okay.
Also, what I like about this is it remains at a nice downhill slope versus that corrugated tile that was here.
Oh, sure.
That comes in a roll of 250 feet. And when you uncoil it, it wants to coil back up.
Oh, and so you get it up and down and you get pockets of water that probably don't drain at all.
Exactly. It's like a roller coaster. Plus, there's little quarter-inch divots in each one of the corrugations. So when the water quits draining out of it, you still have water sitting inside the drain tile.
And hence, that system obviously wasn't installed properly to begin with. There's lots of water there and all that dank smell. And even if it were installed correctly, you're still going to have that water stuck in the corrugation.
That's exactly correct. And today, the homeowner came down and said, now that we've got that drain tile out of here, we put this in, the basement already smells drier and smells better.
And I noticed the concrete was actually getting whiter, so it was holding all that moisture, all that water.
Yeah.
Man, he had a big smile on his face, I know that.
He
and
did.
so back to the components here, it starts with a bed of washed rock.
Yep.
You go with the smooth
Rigid.
PVC, rigid drain tile.
At a downhill slope to the pump.
And then looks like you're going to cover it back up.
Yeah, we'll surround this with gravel all the way around, a little bit over the top of the footing here. Then we drill the holes in the block to allow the water to drain out of the block.
It still blows my mind how much water came out of those.
Yeah, these are hollow cavities, so the water then drains out of the block, down to the footing, across the footing, and down into the gravel, fills up into the gravel, and then into the drain tile. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that a drain tile system is not a plumbing system. In the old days, it was thought that you would put a tube in here, seal around it.
What we saw earlier.
Yeah, and try to plumb that water right into the drain tile. Well, what happens is the water still comes out where the block and the footing meet.
Okay, sure.
Okay, and that water, if you don't have some sort of way for it to get across the footing, would then just build up and come in. With our patented diamond drainage board, we're able to divert that water across the footing, and it's adjustable depending on the thickness of the concrete. It can be up to 4 inches thick, or two inches, or 1 inch.
Oh, I see. So it's already scored here. You can bend it to whatever you want. And then how does that actually function?
Well, we put it right here to catch the water coming out of the block, and you can see it's got this nice 1/4 inch gap. This allows the water to drain unrestricted.
Oh, so there's no chance of a tube getting bent, pinched off, getting plugged, and these little legs here keep it away from the wall and above the footing, so it's a perfect facilitation of the water using the top of the footing, leading it right down to this channel.
Exactly, Stu. And also with these diamonds in here, when we pour the concrete, it goes down into these diamonds, giving you direct contact to the wall and the footing.
And so it's really locked in place. You know, I saw them installing this, and one thing I noticed is they were running a bead of caulk along the top of that.
That's correct. In this particular home, because we're putting in that sub-slab ventilation system, we caulk the top of this so we're not drawing the indoor air out. We want to create a vacuum beneath the slab, so we pull all that moisture out of here.
Boy, makes total sense to me. So with all these superior components, it's no wonder these homeowners are never going to have to worry about it. It's just incredible with the right components what you can do.
We've really changed the air quality in this basement.
Sure. Well, I know that this all leads to the sump crock, and we can learn more about those components next.
You got it.
You get the towels. I'll get the mopping bucket.
Mom, Dad, you guys eat.
What are you doing?
It's pouring. The basement's gonna flood. We told you what standard water did for us.
They were great, and our basement's been dry ever since.
And you get a lifetime warranty. So I get to sleep.
It was the best money we ever spent. Why haven't you called them?
Well, dear, why haven't we called them?
Tomorrow. I'll call them tomorrow.
Visit standardwater.com today.
Now let's learn what to look for in a sump pump and see the completed drain tile system our crew has installed. As we finish up with Mike Hoganson from Standard Water Control Systems. Oh, Mike, now this is an awesome little demonstration piece. I mean, so many times we do a show and we talk about the importance of drain tile and all the right components, but we only get to look down into the sump crock. Here you have it cut away, so let's take a minute to walk through the premium components that comprise your system.
Okay, Stu, the sump pump is the heart of any drain tile system. Without it, if it fails, your basement's going to flood. This is our premium grade superior sump system. It starts with a heavy duty industrial pump. It draws only 3.8 amps and will pump 4,100 gallons per hour.
Wow, two things there, very energy efficient, and that sounds, when you say industrial strength, that's a lot of water being pumped out of a basement.
You bet it is. This pump also will pump water up to 2,800 gallons per hour, 10 feet in the air, where most other pumps will shut off at that height.
Okay, so to a consumer, you should be aware of how tall your basement is. And if it's higher than, say, 8, 9, 10 feet, maybe 12-foot basement height, you want to make sure you have a pump that can handle that.
That's right, Stu. This also has a check valve in it that only allows the water to go one way.
Very
okay,
important,
so that
sure.
way, when the pump pumps it out, it doesn't drain back in again and gets pumped a second time.
Sure, okay.
The second part of this is the optional battery backup pump, which is a whole nother pump that if you have a power failure or mechanical failure, it will kick in, sound an alarm, and keep your basement dry.
So not only redundant from the standpoint if this fails, if you have a power failure, sure, you think about when are you going to have a power failure? Probably during a heavy rainstorm, right?
That's right, Stu.
And then in that case, if you didn't have a battery backup, you would have a basement full of water. So you would recommend always installing a battery backup.
I absolutely would. This gives you great peace of mind.
Well, if there's any questions homeowners have, I'm sure they can visit your website with all the information out there. They can learn more about these awesome components. Let's head back downstairs. I'm anxious to see how you finish off the system and where the water eventually gets pumped in.
Sounds great, Stu.
Well, Mike, the morning of day 2 of the project, and I tell you, what a difference from 24 hours ago. These guys did a great job, and talk about effectiveness. I mean, when we walked in here yesterday, I was like, man, is it humid down here? It was kind of dank. It smelled a little musty. It's like a total transformation.
Absolutely, Stu. It's much drier down here, and it's, like you said, smells better and feels more comfortable.
You know, when I was watching the guys install the piping, immediately water was flowing into the sump crock and being discharged. Today, there doesn't seem to be too much water in there. I can only imagine how happy the homeowners are that they're never going to have to worry about water in their basement again.
Absolutely, Stu. You can see that we've put the system in much deeper than what was here yesterday. You can see the drain tile is about a foot beneath the floor, where yesterday the drain tile was right under the floor and actually in the concrete.
Sure, and that's what I liked about showcasing your system on this project, is there was existing drain tile that had failed. I mean, it really wasn't installed properly. It seemed to me to be plugged up, and it wasn't doing its job, and really misleading the homeowners, thinking that it was working and they just had a musty basement. Well, obviously with the right components and the professional installation, that's not the case. This is the way to do it.
Absolutely. Now, Stu, what we have here is the sump pit. Inside the sump pit, we've got the primary pump and the backup pump.
So obviously, Mike, it's a very effective system at getting the water to the sump crock, but where is all this water discharged to?
Well, the primary pump will pump it up through this discharge line to the outside, beyond the landscaping, onto the grass, and then it'll go downhill away from the house at that point.
Okay, and so the second line, is that for the battery backup system?
Yeah, the second line we put into every home because, well, it's convenient to put in while we're doing the job in case in the future somebody might want to add a backup pump.
Probably less expensive to do it now than if they realize the value of a backup pump and wish they had put it in. They opt to do it. It's relatively easy for them to do so.
Exactly. So our discharge line is the seamless line that has no 90s, no couplings. It'll never crack, break. If it freezes, it can expand and contract, and we don't have to worry about ever having to come back and repair it. You can finish over this and feel comfortable that you're not going to have to get at it again.
Sounds like a great product, a lot of peace of mind for the homeowner. Is there any maintenance with these systems?
The only maintenance is to remember to take the discharge pipe off during the winter months and then putting it back on in the spring. And if you follow us on Twitter, we'll send you a reminder.
Okay, that's awesome. Now that's above ground discharge. Do you offer the option of burying the discharge if you didn't want the pipe on top of your lawn?
Some people would like to have a buried discharge so they don't have to work around that when they're mowing the grass. So yes, we do offer that. Where right outside the house, we 90 it down into a cone that goes into a 4-inch pipe that's buried out into the yard where there's a box that the water can then bubble up out of.
It really seems like you have options for every application out there. If you're a homeowner, just visit your website. You can learn more about all that, I'm sure. Okay, what's it going to take for the guys to finish up this project?
At this point, you can see that we put down some poly over the top of the gravel. The poly is there to prevent any moisture from wicking up the new concrete, but even more importantly, Stu, we want to make sure the concrete doesn't go down into the gravel and plug it up. After that, we've got one crew that does nothing but the installations, and then the cement crew follows behind them the next day. So they're going to mix the cement out in the truck. We've got a truck with a mixer mounted to it. They'll mix exactly what we need, and they'll bring it in, feather it in place, finish it, and then the last thing we do is we stamp our name right in the concrete so nobody forgets who we are.
Sure, your seal of approval. And you know, when you look at this project, what a transformation for these homeowners. Now they can go ahead, finish their remodel job, creating that comfortable, usable living space, adding considerable value to their home.
Without any worries of damaging their personal belongings.
Well, thanks, Mike, for coming on and sharing it with us today.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Stu.
Thanks for watching today's Home Remodeler. And if you'd like more information on the products and services seen on today's show, please visit standardwater.com.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Today's Home Remodeler television network.